young and the restless spoiler's shock deception in the shadows. Claire's test of loyalty, the dim light of the underground hideout cast long shadows on the cold, damp walls. Jordan and Claire walked side by side, their earlier reconciliation leaving a fragile tension in the air. The truth was that while they had made amends, trust was still a fragile thread between them, one that Jordan intended to test. When they reached the far end of the hideout, Jordan stopped abruptly. Her expression hardened, her earlier warmth replaced by a steely resolve. "Claire," she said, her voice low and commanding. "I need you to do something for me. Prove to me that you're still on my side." Claire tensed. "What do you mean?" Jordan gestured toward a reinforced door. "Sharon is in there. I need you to watch her. Make sure she stays put. If anyone comes looking, you deal with them. Can I trust you to handle this?" Claire hesitated for only a moment before nodding. "Of course you can." Jordan's piercing gaze lingered on Claire for a moment longer. Then, with a curt nod, she turned and walked away. Claire knew this wasn't just a task. It was a test. Jordan was watching her every move, evaluating her loyalty. And worse, Claire suspected that Jordan had a contingency plan. This was no ordinary test. If Claire failed, both she and Sharon would pay the ultimate price. A secret bond between hostages inside the room. Sharon sat on a rickety chair, her hands bound but her spirit unbroken. When the door creaked open and Claire stepped in, Sharon's eyes widened with a mix of fear and relief. Claire closed the door behind her and approached cautiously, her movements slow and deliberate. "Sharon," Claire whispered, kneeling in front of her. "It's me. I need you to listen carefully." Sharon's eyes filled with tears. "Claire, what are you doing here? Why are you with her?" "I don't have time to explain everything," Claire said urgently. "But you have to trust me. I'm going to get you out of here. I promise." Sharon's body trembled with quiet sobs. The weight of her captivity, the fear, and now this glimmer of hope were too much to bear. "How?" "Jordan will kill us both if she finds out." Claire reached out, gently squeezing Sharon's shoulder. "I know what she's capable of, but I also know how to play this game. I need you to hold on a little longer. I'm going to find a way to contact Nick and Victoria. They'll come for us." The test within the test. As the hours passed, Claire's mind raced. She was acutely aware that Jordan might be watching or listening. The woman was cunning, and this was undoubtedly part of her twisted scheme to gauge Claire's loyalty. Claire played her part perfectly, checking on Sharon as if she were simply fulfilling Jordan's orders. But beneath the surface, every move she made was calculated. When she left the room briefly, she scanned her surroundings for any sign of a phone or a way to contact the outside world. Her heart sank as she realized Jordan had likely anticipated this. The hideout was stripped bare of anything that could be used to communicate. But Claire wasn't about to give up. She returned to Sharon's side, leaning close as if to scold her. Instead, she whispered, "I need you to remember every detail of this place. The sounds, the smells, anything that might help Nick and Victoria find us." Sharon nodded weakly. "What if they don't come in time?" "They will," Claire said firmly. "They have to." The knife's edge, unbeknownst to Claire, Jordan was indeed monitoring her. From a hidden vantage point, she watched as Claire interacted with Sharon, her expression unreadable. Jordan's mind churned with conflicting emotions. She wanted to believe in Claire's loyalty, but the seed of doubt had already taken root. It was why she had prepared a backup plan, a cruel insurance policy to ensure her survival. If Claire betrayed her, Jordan was ready to eliminate both her and Sharon. No loose ends. A race against time. Claire's only hope now was to find a way to send a message. As she pretended to check the room for potential threats, her eyes scanned every corner. Then, in the faintest glint of light, she saw it. A small, battered flip phone partially hidden under a pile of discarded rags in the corner. Her pulse quickened. She turned back to Sharon, masking her discovery. "Stay calm," she whispered. "This isn't over." When she had a moment alone, Claire retrieved the phone with trembling hands. It was old and low on battery, but it might work. She quickly dialed Nick's number, praying he would answer. The phone buzzed faintly, and then, mercifully, his voice came through. Claire. Nick's voice was tense, filled with both relief and urgency. Where are you? There's no time, Claire hissed. Jordan's holding Sharon and me in a hideout on the outskirts of town, near the old quarry. You need to come now. But be careful, Jordan's armed, and she won't hesitate to. The sound of footsteps made Claire freeze. She quickly ended the call and shoved the phone back under the rags, her heart pounding in her chest. The final gambit as Jordan re-entered the room. Her eyes narrowed. Everything okay in here? Claire nodded, her face carefully neutral. Sharon hasn't moved. She's not going anywhere. Jordan studied her for a long moment, then smiled. A cold, calculating smile. Good. Keep it that way. But Claire knew the game was far from over. She had taken a monumental risk by contacting Nick, and now it was a matter of time before help arrived, or before Jordan discovered her deception. In the silence that followed, Claire steeled herself for the confrontation she knew was coming. She had placed her faith in Nick and Victoria, but she also knew that, in the end, it might fall to her to outsmart Jordan and save them all. Because in this deadly game of loyalty and survival, every second counted. And Claire was willing to risk everything to protect those she cared about. Caught in the web, Claire's battle of wits with Jordan, the atmosphere in the hideout grew colder, as Claire sensed an unseen presence lingering in the shadows. There was something unsettling about how Jordan had left her and Sharon alone so easily. It wasn't like her to trust anyone entirely. Not even Claire. That nagging feeling turned into icy certainty when Claire noticed the faint glint of a tiny lens embedded high in the corner of the room. A hidden camera. Jordan had been watching and listening all along. Every whispered promise to Sharon, every fleeting glance of reassurance. They had all been laid bare before Jordan's calculating eyes. And now, Claire knew, the stakes had risen dramatically. Jordan's revelation in the main control room of the hideout. Jordan sat before a small monitor, her face set in a grim smile as she watched the feed. She had heard everything. Claire's assurances to Sharon, her plan to contact Nick and Victoria, and the subtle confidence in her voice as she tried to keep Sharon calm. So that's your game, Jordan murmured to herself, leaning back in her chair. You think you can outsmart me, Claire? You've forgotten who taught you everything you know. Jordan's hand hovered over the controls. She could see the loyalty in Claire's actions, but not the kind of loyalty she had hoped for. Claire wasn't on her side. She was against her, and now Jordan had the proof she needed. Moments later, Claire heard the heavy thud of boots approaching the door. She barely had time to prepare herself before Jordan burst in, her face a mask of controlled fury. Well, Jordan said, her voice dripping with sarcasm. I have to say, Claire, you had me fooled. All that talk about loyalty, about standing by me, and the whole time you were plotting behind my back. Claire stood her ground, her expression calm and defiant. What did you expect, Jordan? You can't expect me to stand by and watch while you hurt innocent people. That's not who I am. Jordan tilted her head, a chilling smile spreading across her face. Oh, I know exactly who you are, Claire, and I've decided that you're no longer my partner in this. You're a liability. With a sharp gesture, Jordan motioned for two of her henchmen to step forward. They seized Claire by the arms and began dragging her toward the back of the hideout, ignoring her protests. Imprisoned, but not broken, Claire was thrown into a room adjacent to Sharon's, the heavy door slamming shut behind her. Unlike Sharon, she wasn't bound or chained, but the implication was clear. She was a prisoner now, no different from the woman she had sworn to protect. Jordan stood in the doorway, arms crossed. You're lucky I don't deal with traitors the way I used to, she said coldly. But don't think for a second that you're safe. You'll stay here until I figure out what to do with you. As the door slammed shut again, Claire took a deep breath, steadying herself. She knew Jordan wouldn't kill her, not yet. Jordan needed leverage, and Claire was still useful to her in some way. That knowledge gave Claire an edge, a sliver of confidence in an otherwise dire situation. Planning her escape, Claire's mind raced as she surveyed the room. There were no visible exits other than the door, and the walls were reinforced steel. But Claire wasn't one to give up easily. She began methodically searching for anything she could use. A loose panel, a hidden vent, or even an object that could serve as a tool or weapon. Meanwhile, she thought back to the phone she had hidden earlier. If she could just retrieve it, she might have a chance to contact Nick and Victoria again. She knew they would be looking for her, but she couldn't rely on them finding her in time. She had to take matters into her own hands. Sharon's silent resolve in the next room. Sharon sat quietly, her mind replaying Claire's words over and over. Despite her fear and exhaustion, she felt a flicker of hope. Claire had promised to get them out, and Sharon believed her. But when she heard the commotion in the hallway and saw Claire being dragged past her room, her hope wavered. "Stay strong," Sharon whispered to herself, tears streaming down her face. "If Claire can be brave, so can I." The game of deception. Jordan was a master manipulator, and she knew Claire's mind was already working overtime to find a way out. That was precisely why Jordan had a new plan, a plan to keep Claire off balance and force her into a mistake. From the control room, Jordan watched the feed intently, her lips curling into a smirk. She had cut off all communication devices and stationed guards at every possible exit. But she also knew Claire's greatest strength was her ability to adapt and outthink her opponents. "Let's see how smart you really are," Jordan muttered, leaning closer to the screen. Claire's confidence locked in the room. Claire sat on the edge of the narrow cot, her mind racing with possibilities. She knew Jordan was testing her, watching her every move. But Claire also knew something else. Jordan's overconfidence would be her downfall. "She thinks she's already won," Claire whispered to herself. But she's wrong. Claire had faced danger before, and she had always come out stronger. This time would be no different. She would find a way to escape, to free Sharon, and to bring Jordan's twisted schemes to an end. Because while Jordan might have had the upper hand for now, Claire's determination was unshakable. And no camera, no locked door, and no twisted game of loyalty would be enough to stop her.